Welcome everyone. For those people who don't know me, my name is Matthew Bennett, otherwise known as English Leather Master. I'll be telling you a little bit about me in a minute and why I feel I'm able to talk about working from home in a time of crisis. So welcome, and I'm very, very pleased that you're all joining me today. Throughout this presentation, incidentally, if you'd like to put any questions, please use the Q&A box, and I will try to get them at appropriate times. So first of all, the agenda today, I'll talk a little bit about who I am, and then I'll talk about the current situation in the world with the coronavirus and lockdown across the world. I'll talk about the basics of health and safety in working from home, but real basics. I'm trying not to go back over the sorts of things that you would hear in any blog, and try to add to the story. And through that, I'm talking both to people who are your average employee who doesn't have any management responsibilities, who just gets on with your job, and we've all been there. And I'm also talking to people who are leaders and managers and higher up in organisations, and in particular in how to lead teams through this time of crisis. If you don't have any management responsibilities, then maybe some of the things I'll be giving you will be ways of helping your manager to understand your needs. And those are the needs of your colleagues, because all of us can lead to help our colleagues. So very quickly, talking about who I am. So many people will have come across me, first of all, on Twitter, where I've got several thousand followers, and I'm I'm a lifestyle dominant. I show a lot of explicit stuff online, and I part of my income comes from my online work. And if you think about it, yes, there's a lot of fun that I have in that, but also it's running a business, and I make money, and I do advertising, and I do sales, and I do promotions, and I do all of this thing to make that happen. Oh. But that's not where I started. Where I've been for the last 20 years is actually I was I almost look like I'm wearing the same shirt in that picture. I was a teacher, and then I worked in education across the world. Initially in the UK in the assessment arena, and then I lived in Southeast Asia, in Thailand for 3 years. And I was regional director for a company, and I travelled across the world. I gave talks and presentations and workshops in over 13 countries, to teachers, to business managers, to various organisations. I worked with governments across the globe. Mainly around education, but the actual content isn't the important thing for today. What's important is the fact that I was working remotely. I was the only person in Thailand, and my colleagues were in China, in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in the UAE, in Egypt, and in Britain. So I was working with this group of people across the world, and we had to work very much separately, but as a team together, and trying to work out how to do that was really important. Prior to working in Thailand, I also worked remotely quite a lot of the time, and I'll give some reasons why I did that. I had an office job, or several office jobs, but often I would come away from the office and do work at home or from hotels if I was traveling. And there's ways of working that I developed through that. So I'm not new to working from home. My main job these days is coaching, and that's what this is part of. I run a coaching practice called English Leather Master Coaching, which some of you will have seen online. And I coach kinky and LGBT plus people, and my specialism is trying to find those links between different parts of people's lives. So for example, trying to find an awareness of the self. I find that kinky people and LGBT plus people tend to be very self-aware, because they've gone through lots of stages in life to get to where they are to begin with, and try to take that self-awareness and put it into the workplace. or take their passions from their home life and put it in the workplace, or the other way around, say that they're really focused on their work, but that means that their relationships are suffering. So I try to look at people's lives in a holistic way and help them through their lives like that. I've written a book, which some of you will have seen. That's possibly why you're on this webinar, is because you might have seen my book, Mastering Life. And I'm hoping that that book is, well, I believe that book is the first LGBT plus and kink aware self-help book in the world, because I was aware that there's lots and lots of self-help books and they don't really talk to people like us. They have lots of cisgendered heteronormative examples, which assume that you have got 2.4 children and work and go to live a normal life, that your whole world is very small. I found that kinky people and LGBT plus people, because we have to have very different communities, we built up communities that are much wider than lots of normal people that I've come across, and that adds a different pattern to life. So Mastering Life, I decided to add in a lot of different models and ways of thinking about the world, from psychology, from coaching, and business models, and put them all into life and help people to move through their lives and find a really fulfilled, happy life through that. So if you haven't seen it, download it from my website. The link's at the bottom, EnglishLeatherMaster.com, and you can download it for free. So let's talk about the lockdown that's currently going on. But to understand the lockdown, we have to go back to last year and think about why this current time is so different. So last year, less than 30% of the UK workforce worked from home. Now, what does this mean is not entirely clear. I worked from home quite a lot when I was working in the UK, but that might have been, one day a week or 2 or 3 days a month. And what that statistic covers is unclear. It comes from the Office of National Statistics. A more useful statistic potentially is this one, that 3.6% of the US workforce reported working from home at least half of the time. 3.6% of people. That is a tiny proportion of people. Now, you have to think about why that is. Sometimes it's that there are jobs that you cannot do from home. Nurses, grocery workers, the street sanitizers, and all of these people who we suddenly realized are the key workers in life, they can't work from home. But also, this is a very telling graph in that people tend to work from home towards the middle of their lives. And what I suggest is that people who work from home tended to be mid-career and more senior. People who are leaders tend to allow themselves to go and work from home, whereas the led tend to be stuck in the offices. And really importantly, until now, almost all people who worked from home had chosen to do so. So there are lots of people who won't have wanted to work from home for a myriad of reasons. First of all, they might have enjoyed the office atmosphere, the camaraderie. It might have been that their homes are just not suitable for working. Maybe they've got too many children and cats and other people in their homes, so they didn't work from home. And suddenly all these people have been forced to work from home. So in the past, it's been true that people who work from home or remotely have got better mental health and have got better productivity and efficiency in their work. But that may not be the case anymore, because they were very self-selected, and that's not the case anymore. So we've got millions of people around the world who suddenly have extra pressures on their lives, and they don't necessarily know how to work from home, and their team leaders, their managers, their leaders may also not know how to manage people working from home. So the absolute baseline of this is the health of people working from home. Now, the basics, this is the sort of stuff that you will find on any blog or government website about working from home, so I'll rocket through this. Employers are liable for home workers' health and safety in both the USA and the UK, and I'm sure in other jurisdictions. So this came to the fore in the UK a couple of weeks ago when the parliamentary people in charge of this gave each MP up to £10,000 worth of expenses in order to set up home offices. Now everyone went, oh, you're not giving that to the teachers, you're not giving that to to everyone else. How dare you? There was a massive issue in the way that this was explained to people, but underlying it was actually the fact that many MPs, members of Parliament, have got 10 or 5 or 10 people working for them. Each one of those people then, instead of working in a little office in their constituency, was now working from home. And there was a realization that each person had to have the right computer equipment, the right chair, the right broadband connection, and all of those things that they may not have had in the past. And very rightly, the UK Parliament said to their MPs, you need to set these people up. Now, not every company is able to do that, I acknowledge. However, companies need to be thinking about, have my employees got the space, the position, the equipment to work from home properly? Body position from working from a computer. Do not work on a sofa because you're hunched over. If you're on your laptop, your back will hurt, your neck will hurt, and it's just really bad for you. So if you can sit like the person in that picture, then that is really good, and your eyes should be level with the top of your VDU and all of those things. Laptops are problematic in that laptops are too small compared to where the keyboard is. So get one of these wireless keyboard at the very basics, and then at least you can lift the laptop up and have the screen at the right level. When I'm working from home, I have my laptop. I also have a screen that I use, so the screen is bigger, and therefore I don't get so much eye strain. Lighting appropriate. You don't want any reflections off your screen. I've said here, check rent insurance and rental agreements. You would hope in this new world that insurance companies understood that working from home was compulsory. However, it might be actually against your agreement. So do double check that that's okay. Now, when I've said consider internet bandwidth and data limits and things like that, part of that is for you. If you are an employee and you're using video conferencing more often, have you got the internet connection? But also as an employer or a team leader or a manager, think about whether your team actually have got the capability. For example, if someone is living at home with 3 or 4 kids and they're all trying to use the internet at the same time, and then you're expecting that person to be doing video calls 5 hours a day, the internet's going to go creaking to a halt in some people's homes, and that's just not fair. So really think about whether you need computer video call, he says on a video. And people might have to add in costs for heating and cooling electricity. I mean, you see all the time these reports for companies saying, yeah, you're going to save loads of money by sending your people to work from home because you won't have heating costs, because you're just giving it to your employees. So that's not so great for the employees. Some real simple do's and don'ts, and then we'll get into some more detailed stuff. So don't work from bed. It's so tempting. I've done this so many times. You just think, oh, you know what? I'm gonna lie in bed and just write that report. You know what the first thing you do in bed is? You fall asleep. I do it all the time. You're sitting there and you fall asleep, and then your back starts hurting, your neck starts hurting, and it's horrible. Really bad idea. The other thing about working from bed is you're not differentiating between work time and rest time. So the temptation is to check your emails first thing in the morning, last thing at night. And the number of times, especially when I was working in Bangkok, so I was 7 hours behind the UK, or in front of the UK, they wouldn't wake up till about 3 o'clock. So they wouldn't go to sleep till, or they wouldn't clock off until it was at 10 or 11 o'clock my time. So the number of times I'd check my email and there was something from our director that just wound me up, and then I wouldn't sleep because I was checking my emails from bed. Really bad idea. So put a time limit on when you're going to be working till. We'll talk about time in a bit. Stick to a routine. Really strongly suggest you get up, you have a shower in the morning, and you get dressed for work. Working in your pajamas just doesn't work. There's something about it. I always find that I feel really, really tired if I haven't had a shower and got dressed properly in order to work from home. And the other thing is that at the end, and we'll talk about this later, of the day, try to change out of your work clothes, so you make a real, this is my work time, this is my home time. And in this time where I can't remember which day it is most of the time that at the moment, we really need that structure to keep our bodies healthy and safe. The other thing, working in an office, you would naturally take the odd break. You would go and have, make a cup of coffee. You would go and have a cigarette, or take lunch, or whatever. If you're working from home, it feels like that's not acceptable. Think back to what it was like when you were working in the office, and take the same breaks. Because that's what your body is used to for a start, but also it's what you need, and you need to get rid of the eye strain. So you need to be looking away from your computer at least 10 minutes in the hour, for example, if at all possible. Don't expect working from home to be the same as working in an office. There are a myriad differences, and we'll be going through those as I continue in this webinar. Let's talk about stress. Incidentally, I will stop after this section to ask any questions, but if you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the box. So Paul White did the survey. He had 85,000 people in his, he's a coach, in his email group, and he sent this survey out. It's not particularly standardized or anything like that, but I think it's quite useful in knowing what the stresses these people were finding in lockdown were. So half of the people he surveyed found work-related challenges. So things like whether you can focus on work when everything else is going on at home, and we'll talk about managing expectations of people around you later. The change of ways of working. So a lot of people would go to meetings and would be really good at face-to-face interactions with people. Those people now have to work on the phone or on video call. That's really different. Technology problems, and I mean, I used to be lucky enough in the first company I worked from home that we had a really good local area network that I was able to dial into using Cisco technology, and I was able to use the network as if I was at work, and so I could get all the files and all the details I wanted. In my next company, I didn't have that access, and so therefore we'd have to use Dropbox and WeTransfer and all sorts of bits and pieces to try and transfer files. You'd have to sort of email someone to get something that you just wanted to check a number and you couldn't get your hands on it, and it became much more stressful, and that time had to be added in for every task. You also can't just pop down the corridor and say, oh, hi, can you tell me this thing? Or, check if someone's around. All of those stresses all of those things add to your stress. Obviously, in the COVID-19 situation, lots of people are feeling health concerns, some about themselves, but often it's about their loved ones, and they're the loved ones they can't be with, and that's, going to family issues as well. That, I can't see my mother. Is that, is she okay? Is she keeping safe? I can't see my best friends, and all of those. For LGBT plus people who tend to have slightly different groups of people around them, we're not seeing our peers in the same ways, and it's really important that we try to find ways of connecting with people. And lots of people have family issues and feel very lonely in our world. Work-life balance and family relationships, especially for those people who've got family at home. So this may not be the people I'm talking to right now, but it may be if you're a manager, it may be those people you manage. If there's kids in the house, trying to work when there's kids around is a nightmare. And actually, in my company that I worked for in the UK, we made a rule that if you had children at home, you couldn't work from home, because we realised that you had to be, number one, a carer, and number two, an employee, and that was always going to be the case, especially with younger kids. And now suddenly everyone's working from home, and their kids are there, and they're expected to be mother and teacher and everything else at the same time as working. I was literally just talking to our neighbour, who was saying, I don't know how to be mother and teacher at the same time. It's impossible. I've never done this before. She's also got a kid who's just turned 11 and is a nightmare. So, I feel her pain. There are some benefits. Many people are enjoying their time with their family. Either that's more time with their children, or it's having lunch with your significant other, and that's great. It's really nice that people can be bonding, and if that's possible, that it's wonderful. And people are gaining time through less time commuting. Now, question about commuting: is that work time? So when I was commuting into to work, I remember getting on the train, and I'd sit on the train, and I would sometimes I would answer emails or prepare for my day ahead. Sometimes I'd just go through what I was going to do in the day. But quite a lot of the time, I'm sitting there on the train watching Breaking Bad on my iPad. So if your commute is an hour long each way, and then you have a coffee, just before you go in, how are you using that time now? How are you doing that sort of preparation for work? And one of the things I've noticed for people who are work from home is they tend to get out of bed and straight into work, and it's not so great. Oh, interesting. So I've just had a question from Dan about claiming income tax relief through the P87 process. I have not. However, I will see if I can answer that question, and I've got your email address. I'll send that to you if I can find any information about that. But that's quite interesting for those people to know who are listening, that there is a tax relief process for if you've got increased costs. Some people will have seen this before. This is called the stress arc, and it's a way of recognizing that we need stress to push us forwards. So if you take me as an example, I used to do a lot of presentations, I used to do a lot of reports and things, and a lot of training. And if I knew that I had a training course in 3 weeks' time, I would do nothing for the first 2 weeks, because my massive stress comes from, or positive stress comes from, time pressure, and that I would recognize that I needed that deadline, and I do very little up to the deadline, and then I push myself and I get it done really fast. And that's my way of working, and at that point all my creative juices start running, and I become energetic, and I really push it forwards. If I didn't have anything to do, I would be incredibly lethargic. And I found this when I was working in Bangkok, was I would have periods, especially as I was working in schools, in the school holidays, where my manager literally said at the beginning of 6 weeks of school holiday in the summer, "Oh, do planning for next term." And I'm like, how long does planning for a term take? It really doesn't take 6 weeks to do planning. Certainly not for me anyway. And I would sort of wander out of bed, sit around feeling a bit bored and a bit tired, and I'd have a sleep and I'd actually feel stressed from not feeling that I was doing anything. So that's really, really bad. I needed that push, that focus, and then I was working really fast. On the other hand, if you've got too much coming in, then you end up feeling tired, you feel anxious, and then you just burn out. Some of my coaching clients actually work for the NHS or for healthcare in the US as well, and they've all told me a very similar thing, in that in the run up to, they knew that COVID was on its way, they were starting to actually feel a bit excited, and they were, all of them said, you know, surely this is wrong. In feeling excited about some great catastrophe, but they were getting really buzzed up about it. And then in the first week, they were like bang, 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 peak performance, really getting this done. And now they're starting to be tired. I had a friend message me the other day who's a paramedic. He said in the first week we were running 20-hour days, and then we can't go on like that. It's just, you just get too tired. So we've had to reschedule things. We've had to take time off. We've had to make sure that our rotas are done in a way that is much more sustainable, because this isn't going away. And so people are trying to recalibrate this whole thing. Now, one of the things that's really important for everyone, both if you're a worker and if you're a manager, is trying to work out where people's peak performance is, what causes that peak performance, and how you know you're at peak performance or less or more. So I know that I'm at less than peak performance if I'm tired. I get really lethargic and I fall asleep. If I'm having four naps a day, I'm not doing enough. I'm not feeling that pressure, the positive, healthy pressure that really pushes me forward. And I need to find myself another thing to do. Or what I do is I allow myself to have that space, because I know that I'll get that pressure later. So, for example, if as I say, if I had a presentation to do in 3 weeks' time, I'd spend a couple of weeks just allowing myself to soak in some extra information, to do some reading around. What I find really useful is I would put in a relevant audio book and I'd go for a walk, and just allow myself that time, go to the gym a little bit more, knowing that I would end up in the right place with even more knowledge, and then I would push that thing through. If you're on the other side, you can get different people feel that stress in different ways. I find that when I'm feeling that side of stress, I get irritable. My number one is if I start sending snarky emails. If I'm doing that, I'm on that side. There's something going wrong. Other people, they use numbing behaviors. They eat or they drink too much coffee, and they feel that stress in them, or they can't sleep. All of those things are indicators of too much stress and needing to do something about it. So first of all, as individuals, we need to become very aware of our own stresses. We need to work out what it is that we need in order to de-stress. And there's a million resources out there. So, you know, whether you're doing mindfulness or yoga, or going for walks, or just getting away from the computer, turning off your emails, whatever it is that you need to do. And we all need to become better at explaining that to the people around us, whether it's our loved ones in the same house as us, or our managers, or the people we manage. And it's about explaining and being communicative about our needs as people. And it may be saying to your manager, look, I'm not going to be answering any emails after 7 p.m. because I can't sleep, and I will do them all in the morning. Or it might be saying, I'm not going to be around for an hour every lunchtime because I need to take a walk and just get away from the computer. So there's a lot of that managing people. For managers, one of the things I've noticed is that if you message people a lot, and I found this a lot of times when I know people on WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or anything, you get to know the cadence of their talk. So I tend to be very sort of short. I don't actually talk very much. Other people talk a lot and message with very long messages. If I then get monosyllabic replies when I say, how are you? I know something's wrong. I pick up the phone. What's up? So, you know, watch for those differences. And it may be, you know, they're just really busy, but it may be that something else is going on. Any questions at this point? I'll just pause for a moment. Okay. Right, managing space. Now, this is a concept that I came across quite recently, and actually, it was one of those things that just went bing. Oh, I understand quite a lot of something that has been happening for years. So, before I tell you what sensory intelligence is, I've got a series of pictures here. Why is that not moving? There we go. A series of pictures here, and ooh, I'd like you just to consider which of those pictures calls to you and which of those pictures makes you feel a little bit stressed. So we've got an open plan office, we've got a boy sitting writing in the middle of a field, you've got a really busy, colourful set of food on a table, we've got a really cool, calm, modern looking bedroom, we've got a meeting with lots of people in it, talking to each other, we've got sitting, gazing at the stars, we've got a really busy desk with lots and lots of books and things on it. We've got a loud, colourful, probably festival. We've got a woman sitting on her own, obviously quietly at a very empty desk, and we've just got a simple plate of food with really simply laid out food. Now, people come into two types: there's sensory seekers and sensory avoiders. And in fact, it's a as with all of these things, it's a scale, and you're somewhere on a continuum. Sensory seekers love all of their senses being fed. So they like lots of stuff around them. I mean, I'm a sensory seeker, so I can work in this room, and there's lots of stuff. If you see what was behind the camera. Oh, incidentally, so one of the questions I had, this says, actually, I'm pausing because sensory seekers do what I've just done. And sensory seekers jump all over the place because they're constantly thinking and stuff is coming into their mind. So forgive me in that I am a sensory seeker to a large extent. So someone asked me about Zoom and cameras and all the rest of it, and whether they should have good cameras and all the rest of it. My strong suggestion is get an external camera. Right now, my laptop is over there. If you were looking this way in my room, you would be seeing a very, very different picture. I have deliberately set up this so it looks nice. You're seeing what looks like a vaguely professional room. The rest of this room is not professional, but I've got a camera set up exactly where I want it, so I can talk to you, and I don't look like I'm a complete. I live in a complete dustbin. So to that person who asked that question, yeah, get an external camera, get an external, a wireless mouse and keyboard, and then you can do this. Right, back to sensory seekers. Sensory seekers love noise and music and motion and color and movement. They're the people. There are people who like outward bound team building. They're the people. When I was teaching, my desk was an absolute tip, always. But I knew where everything was. I knew that in that pile there, this document would be, and then the other document would be there, and I knew it'd be about that far down. People would come in, and if I went away for a training course for a day, they'd move and tidy my room. I wouldn't know where anything was. It was awful. I used to share my room now and then when I wasn't teaching with another teacher who'd be like, Matthew, please, can you give me a space, a meter of nothing, because I can't cope with this madness. So I was a sensory seeker. I really worked well in this situation. Sensory avoiders are the entire opposite, in that they need quiet, space, and stillness. Now, if you think about it, if the sensory avoiders need space and the sensory seekers need all of their senses, jarred and filled, the sensory avoiders would have been the ones who worked from home in the past, because they often would have been the ones who wanted to get away from the office. And I mean, as I say, we're all on a continuum. I'm very much a sensory seeker, but every now and then when I had something I really needed to focus on, I would say I want to work from home for that because I don't want all the noise, because I'm very easily distracted. Now, the sensory avoiders probably are okay at the moment because they've probably got their house and they're very calm and very quiet if they chose to work from home in the past. If they didn't, then it could be that they're now working from homes that are just full of screaming kids and music and now voices and TVs on and clutter everywhere, and they would have had the corner office at work where they had their own little bubble, and now they're working this madness that's their home. It could be that sensory seekers loved it at work because they were in an open plan office. They could chat to people while they were doing stuff. They had the office radio was on in the corner and everything was going on. And now they're working from home and they're bereft of everything. And they're like, it's so quiet, I can't cope. And they're the ones who've got music on loud all day long, and they get bored. And maybe the TV is also on just to keep that movement going. So be aware that if you find yourself on that continuum, and consider why working from home is or isn't working for you. I worked in a software company once, and all the programmers were massive sensory avoiders, and they used to complain all the time about us sensory seekers who used to yap and talk and get on with our work, but we would jump talking and stuff all the time, and joking and having a laugh. And these poor programmers were like, can you please shut up? And when they moved office after I left, actually, they put all of them in like a fish tank so that they were on their own and they didn't have to hear us. It was great. Question. This sensory intelligence section is really useful to manage my team and something I was not aware of before. Is there a tool or a way to identify what I am, what category my team members are? So yes, in fact, if you Google sensory intelligence, and there is a coaching practice in South Africa who've done a lot of work on this, and there's a free tool that they have online, and you can access that and you can get a very basic report about it. And then there's another tool that I think is about £25 or something that you can get a deeper knowledge of. So if you just Google sensory intelligence, you'll get there. Is there a link between introverts and extroverts? A lot of sensory avoiders tend to be extroverts. A lot of sensory seekers tend to be introverts. Sorry, a lot of avoiders tend to be introverts. Seekers tend to be extroverts, but not always. So in a way, there's like a four. You could do a grid with most people in one of the two quadrants, but people will be in between the lot. Yes, it's a good question though. Okay, managing work. So a question I've often asked is, what are people paying you for? So there are some people who are being paid for their time. For example, customer service agents have to be sitting by the computer or by the phone from X time to Y time every day, and it doesn't matter if anyone rings them or not. They are being paid to be there. Nurses have to be there from X time to Y time. Teachers have to be there from X time to Y time. So they're being paid for the time in their normal jobs. Other people are not. They're actually being paid for their output. So in my job, when I was developing courses and I was training people and I was answering questions and things, it didn't matter when I did it. I set myself the feeling that I should be working from 8:30 till 5:30 or whatever it was, but why? What was the point? There was nothing about those particular times that meant I needed to do that work. Now, so if you are an employee who has to be on the phone from 9 till 5 or whenever it is, then absolutely you have to be on the phone from 9 to 5, and there's nothing about that that we can change. If you're not, or if your teams are not needed to be on the phone or at doing a particular job from one time to another time, why are we enforcing a particular time of working? So the most obvious example of why you would not need to is if you've got someone who has to do, I don't know, reports or an accounts book, or produce presentations. It could be that they're working with their kids in the house, and those kids need help because their teachers are not there. They need focus on their kids. They need to help their kids do their schoolwork. So it may be that those people say, look, I'll do some work first thing in the morning. I'll then concentrate on my kids during school time, and then once the kids are watching TV in the evening, I will check my emails, and then I will really focus on my work after 8 o'clock at night when the kids are back in bed. Why is that a problem? It may be a problem if you want information off them straight away. So people really need to think very intelligently about when people are working, what they're working on, and how they're working in this new world, and really have those conversations about who's doing what and when are they doing it. This is me working. I'm standing, I'm really, really lucky where I am at the moment. I've got terrible posture. I'm standing in front of a reservoir thinking. And because I'm a sensory seeker and I like stuff going on, I'll have 15 different screens open because of my two jobs. I can officially say that having Twitter open is part of my job. So, of course, what happens on Twitter, lots of stuff comes up. You sit there watching Twitter, I'm not doing work. So in order to really focus on something like planning this presentation, I go for a walk and I self-coach, and I'll stand there and I'll go for a walk and I'll ask myself questions. Now, there are lots of people who need that space in their lives and then their working time. If I was being managed by someone, I'm self-employed, so that's not a problem for me, but if I was being managed by someone, then if I was checking my phone every 5 minutes to make sure that I hadn't had the email or the WhatsApp message or something, that I had to prove that I was working, I wouldn't have that space in order to develop the things that I needed to develop. So we need to think about how we're working with people, and how we're making sure that people have that space. Now, if you're in the office, you can see that your employee, or the person you're managing, is sitting at their desk. You can see that they're not on Facebook, they're just staring into space. You know that they're doing something. Be really careful about checking in with people just to see that they're working. And also, as an employee, don't send emails every 5 minutes just to prove you're working. It's completely pointless. Now, again, if you're in an office, it's great to be able to say, oh, can you come over and just have a look at this? I'd like your opinion. Or get a group of people together in a room to collaborate on a project. And obviously that is much more difficult in this day and age. I mean, we're lucky that COVID didn't happen 15 years ago, before we had Zoom and all the rest of these technologies we have now. It'd be very, very different. Can you imagine trying to do this by post? But things are going to be different. So think about work. In the past, it might have been that if you have a big project, then you split that project up into lots of little tasks and you send those tasks around. Now, there are ways of doing that. And for example, some of the ways that the computer programmers are using to develop programs where they go off, they do a little bit, they come back together each week. Those are developing really nicely for those particular industries. Other industries have no idea how to use those, and try to sort of reinvent the industry to use those methodologies can be quite problematic. So what is far better is to give someone a project and say, look, here's the thing I want you to do, here's the parameters, please go and do that and then come back to me. Micromanaging is bad at the best of times, but under these circumstances it's just horrendous. So please don't micromanage. And it may be that if you were in an office, you would say, do this, do 2 pages worth, and then come back and check with me that you're on the right track. It may be that we have to say, actually, we're going to take longer between check-ins on things like that. Manage expectations. when am I going to check on you? When am I going to be available to be checked in? You might say to people, if you've got issues at home, if you've got kids or whatever at home that you need to look after, then you need to manage the expectations of your manager and say, look, I'm going to be here for less time during the day, but I'll do this. It will take me 2 days rather than 1 day, but I'll catch up at the weekend, for example. And consider redefining quality and success. So, I mean, anyone in sales already, sales targets for this year are completely blown out the water. We know that. But there may be other things that, there might be a document. In the past, you would have checked every I and T that dotted and crossed. Maybe we just need to be a little bit more accepting of 90% quality instead of 100% quality, given it would take far, far longer to get that extra 10%. And when you're talking diminishing returns, is it really worth it? Be really careful with methods of communication. So I've mentioned already time. When are people available for things? WhatsApp. Most people are using WhatsApp these days for their home, personal use, and so they'll use WhatsApp in very creative, fun ways. If you suddenly start saying, "Oh, I'm going to have WhatsApp group for my team," have you set expectations for how people are going to behave? Are they allowed to send gifs and funny emojis and all the rest of it, or do they have to be, very careful in their use of language? Be careful with that. Also, if you've got a WhatsApp group, there's always someone who's going to be WhatsApping people at 11 o'clock at night, and that's just not fair. How urgent is this work that you need to do? Sensory preferences. There's a picture there of a Zoom meeting with our illustrious cabinet in the UK. Not everyone likes being seen. I'm currently looking at myself, and I've put myself center screen because otherwise I do this all the time, and I'm looking at myself when I'm supposed to be talking to you. So I've currently put my picture straight under the camera, so it looks like I'm looking at you, but actually I'm looking at myself. Many people don't like looking at themselves. And they don't like that. The other thing is that be really careful. Some people don't have the space. Some people would have screaming kids. Some people don't want to let you into their homes. They don't want you to see their peeling wallpaper or their dripping taps and things. They might not have that area. Also, I mean, I don't know if you saw the COVID-19 concert the other day, but tidy up the room behind you. I moved around some of these shelves to make sure they were a little tidier, just for you. Extroverts, quite happy to talk online. Introverts really don't want to. The sensory avoiders, when you've got 15 people that you're looking at on a screen, it's really quite difficult. The sensory seekers will be fine with that. So, all of those things need to be thought about and be really intentional. Set it out, and now is the time. It's not too late, because everyone sat into this. They all got into this working from home as everyone. It just happened. But now may be the time to say, look, I've been thinking about this. From Monday onwards, I'm going to set these rules. Don't send any emails before 8 a.m. No one is going to reply to an email after 6 p.m. I'm going to say that emails have to be answered within 30 minutes, or you do not call someone up unless they've taken an hour to respond, or whatever it is. I've talked quite a lot about time, so I'm going to rush through this, but just, the way that our time has been organized in the past is very different now, and really think about how you're going to reorganize time for yourself and for everyone around you. Managing expectations. Now, I used to find this when I was working from home. I was in the office, and my husband at the time would say, oh, can you just put some laundry in? And yes, that laundry can be done in my 5-minute coffee break, but do the laundry and then feed the cat, and then just, see to the wash the windows, whatever it is. These things seem to happen during the workday because you're not fully present, and you're in your house and you're looking around and you're going, oh, there's some stuff I need to do. The other thing that you find if your spouse is around or your significant other is around is they don't realize, first of all, sometimes you need to work when they want to have a coffee. Oh, can you just have a coffee with me? Well, no, actually, I'm focused at the moment. It's not the right time for me. Or, you know, you need to be checking your emails because something is coming up and they get resentful and they wouldn't know about it if you were in the office. So do talk to each other and try to preempt those nasty discussions about, oh, you don't take any notice of me. I will at 6 o'clock. Up till then, I'm in work. And that again is about you know, clothing and things. It shows that. One of my this is a quote from one of my coaching clients, and he was having problems with someone in his work called Stephen, and he was getting really stressed. And when he was in the office, Stephen would only be in the office, and he'd get stressed with Stephen in the office. And yet, when he's working from home, he's getting stressed by Stephen in home. So he was lucky enough to have a study, and he was able to leave Stephen in the study. I'm not going to think about Stephen when I'm outside the study. If you don't have a study, how are you going to leave Stephen behind? Or how are you going to leave those work stresses behind? What is it that you do to make a differential between your work stress and time at home? And you might need that wind down time that, you know, 5 o'clock, you don't suddenly go from being a worker to a husband or a housewife or whatever it is you are. You might need that sort of slow down. Listen, I'm going to have half an hour just sitting in my bedroom reading a book, because that's the same thing I would have done on the train to de-stress. So really think about that transition time. Managing people, last section. So when I was working in Bangkok, as I say, I had these people with me in teams across the world, and my team was across the world, and we were a really strong team, but we had to really intentionally work to make that happen. So some of it was because I traveled all over the place, and they used to take me out for dinner, or we'd go out for drinks, and we'd work together, and we trusted each other on a professional basis. Some of it was an intentional thing from the organization that we'd meet together once a year, but actually we'd been working for a good 9-12 months in some cases before we met each other. Other things were that we had a team, but without our manager, WhatsApp group, that we would just share ideas and questions and thoughts and funny jokes, and that was very personal, and it meant that we felt that we were together as a team. We did lots of things together. Now, that's, you know, if you're a manager or if you're or just part of a team, think about how you will bring your team together in this case. If you ring up your team and say, right, every Monday morning we're going to have a focus meeting and we're going to really focus on what we're going to do, and I'm going to go through what everyone's doing, you're not going to bring the team together. You're just going to set up a load of tasks. So maybe you have to have coffee mornings. You know, every Tuesday at 11 o'clock, we're just going to have a chat on Zoom. Just make sure that everyone is okay. Maybe if you're a leader, then you need to ring up everyone you're leading just once a week, 5 minutes, and say, I'm not going to talk about work. I'm literally going to talk about the weather, because it's just a check-in to check that you're okay. So think about those things to really help your team, bring your team together. Appreciation is really important, and it's worth knowing about this. So 51% of managers think that they're doing a good job of recognizing the employees. About half, not great, but 17% of employees think that they're doing a good job. So something is going wrong. And even worse than that, in America, apparently 65% of North Americans think that they got no recognition or appreciation in their workplace last year. So what is going wrong? Well, a lot of the time it's to do with the fact that there are 5 different ways of showing appreciation. 1, words of affirmation. Well done, good boy, good job. Oh, do you hear that? Good boy. So this is what we tell dogs all the time. Good boy, good girl. It becomes background noise. So if you just say, well done, well done, well done, thanks, 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 what does it mean? What's far more powerful is for you to say, Thank you for writing that report, because it gave me the ability to go to my director and they've got more trust in our team. So what did you do? What impact did it have? And if you put that into your appreciation, then it makes it much more powerful and much more personal. Quality time. If you were in the office, spend 5 minutes with someone having a cup of coffee. Oh, can we just have a coffee together? And the first couple of times, the people will think, oh God, what have I done wrong? But over time, it means I appreciate you as a person. You're a human being as well as an employee. Acts of service. Okay, I know you've really worked really hard this week. Can I take a project off you next week, or can I help you? Gifts obviously are wonderful. You can be sending gifts to people. Cake was always a favorite in the offices I worked in. Slightly more difficult in a lockdown situation. Really interestingly, physical touch. About 10-15% of employees want touch. Now, I'm not talking about the Me Too, problematic touch. I'm talking about the fact that if you shake hands with someone, your oxytocin levels increase, you feel better, and therefore you're more likely to have a better meeting if you shake hands with a firm handshake. In other things, it's that high five, the fist bump. Some people do hugging. I think that's becoming less common these days. So all of those things become useful for people. And how are those people getting that? I'll leave that as a hanging question. How can you help people with that feeling of touch when everyone is remote? Really quick summary of everything I've said. So recognize your needs. What type of person am I? What do I need? Manage the environment around you. Have you got too much clutter? Have you got too much noise? Can you find yourself that bubble that you need to work in properly? Get out of bed, sit properly so you're feeling your back is looked after. Manage the expectations of those people you work with. Be aware of your mental and physical health and those people you work with. Plan intentionally your work and your time. I'm going to do this then because I really work well in the mornings, then I give myself some time off in the lunchtime, I have a nap, and then I'm going to work into the evening, or whatever it is. Communicate mindfully. Think about how you're talking to people, when you're talking to people, why you're talking to people, and use the right tools for talking to people. Really, really quickly, I just want to tell you about my coaching and how my coaching works with all of this. So this is a mind map of one of my coaching clients. So this coaching client has a stressful career. And that client, then we've looked at how that client uses how that career impacts their relationships, how that career impacts their sexuality, and looking at the skills. So the one skill I'll talk to you about is the metaphors. So for example, in BDSM world, we use metaphors all the time. We say master, slave, pup and owner. If that person understands metaphors in the BDSM world, then we can use the same in their career. So as they're a team leader, we can say, okay, so are you a parent? Are you a hero? Are you a guru? What are you to your team? And so what my coaching does is it brings in different it looks at the skills that people have in different areas of their life together in order to feel better in all areas of their life. And it's not just these three, there's many areas of people's lives. So my gift to you is, if you want to know a bit more about coaching, and I'm aware of time, so I don't want to talk about it too much. I'm going to give you an hour free coaching. If you're watching this on YouTube, then you are also welcome to an hour free coaching until the end of June 2020. So just email me or message me on my website, EnglishLeatherMaster.com, and you can experience coaching and see how it works for you. And we can talk about your home life, we can talk about relationships, we can talk about your career, we can talk about your business, whatever it is, and see how it all goes. Right, so thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions that you would like me to answer at this point? If not, then I'm really, oh, thank you. I'm really grateful that you spent this time with me, and I would love to speak to you all at some point for coaching, and I wish you the best of luck. I wish you all that you and your loved ones remain safe and sane in this time of madness, and just think this time next year how much better our lives will be, and look forward to you know, a world where we can all go outside and feel safe again. So stay sane, stay safe, stay healthy, and good luck. Goodbye.